And so we're going to bring Matthew on. And Matthew, what group of people are you looking at raising $6.5 million from and earning $1 million for 1 hour of work? I'm sorry, 7 hours of work.
That would be for CPAs and accounting professionals.
And why are you interested in that group of people?
Well, as an accounting professional myself, I can see that value for other accountants and CPAs, and so I want to head that up. And really, at this point, I just want to know what the next steps are so we can get this going.
And so the key is, Matthew, is we've got to get the art pod locked in. We need to have 7 people that are like as committed as Paul and I and Nicole are, and as you are. So we need to get 7 people. And I don't count. So I don't count. I met Judy yesterday. Judy, yours and my conversation, it was spontaneous. Any thoughts from our conversation yesterday, Judy?
It made me want to learn more about all that you're doing and talking about. I just looked a little bit up last night, but sounds like some exciting things, and really just kind of on the cusp of things, wanting to know what things are about.
And do you realize, Judy, that in my world that I live in, that as you get closer to me, Judy, that the more you understand, the more you're not going to understand, and the more you're going to learn to live in absolute confusion. Do you get that sense with me, Judy, or not so much?
I'm starting to after listening to a short time.
Right. Are you okay with that?
A lot of life is like that, don't you think?
That's what I'm thinking. Isn't that like being alive? Like, isn't that what life is all about? Like, if you're not in that world, well, then you might not be alive. Like, are you just a zombie? So, Judy, if you could raise $6.5 million from a specific industry for great causes and earn $1 million, for 1 hour of work. I'm sorry, 7 hours of work. I keep trying to reduce it from, 1 hour, 1 million for 1 hour. That's the next level. That's the quantum jump.
That sounds good.
I mean, yeah, but first, Judy, you've got to go through the 7 hours, okay? So if there was a group of people, an industry that you'd like to raise $6.5 million from and earn $1 million for 7 hours of work, what industry would that be?
Well, since I'm in real estate, it would be real estate.
Paul, do you see how that is absolutely magical for you?
Absolutely, yeah.
So do you see how it'll be easier with Judy's help to go ahead and for you to make $1 million for your 7 hours of work than it would be without Judy?
Correct.
Does anyone think of any stories that you'd want to tell that would go ahead and really bring that point home to millennials?
The story about connections?
Okay.
Well, a story on the spot. To me, it's kind of like, and I don't know that millennials will relate. It's almost like an old wives' tale, 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. In certain industries, you get that down to 1 to 2 degrees, and so your ability to network and leverage people is, X times quicker and stronger. When you don't have to have 7, you have 2. So in my mind's eye, I worked in retail. I worked with real estate agents. Judy, I'm in mortgage wholesale
Okay.
currently, and it's kind of interesting because when you start networking, then real estate agents, they all have referral partners, and they could be CPAs, because if you're doing a purchase, you may need professional advice. Do you liquidate cash? So then Matthew, he gets looped into this, and then there's builder affiliates and construction affiliates. So all of a sudden, one person, in this case Judy, can touch 7, 8, 9 different groups, and then those groups all come together. So then it's the law of large numbers. So that's anecdotally kind of where my head's going with this.
Excellent. Katrina, Judy, Matthew, Rosanna, any thoughts any of you have? Would any of you like your mind blowing right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would.
So you guys got to learn how to internalize things like I internalize things. And that's really hard to do, it seems. I tell my wife, who's Rosanna, she's on, Rosanna, who would you like to go ahead and take the psychology of people? So Paul's got the psychology of people for mortgage professionals. Judy's got the psychology of people for real estate professionals. Matthew has the psychology of people for CPAs and accounting professionals. You guys watch what happens here. Man, I'm telling you, you guys are going to sit back in amazement and awesome. You're just going to be stunned by what Rosanna comes up with. Rosanna, who would you like to go ahead and the psychology of people for what group of people, Rosanna?
Moms?
Okay. That's pretty good. Anyone else want to enhance that maybe?
Business sense for everyday mom?
That's a that's not even included in your million that you're going to make.
Okay.
So how about the psychology of people for women? Like, why would that be so much more powerful, more potent than any of the specific industries?
Because they fit in all industries?
Right. Half of the world is women.
Yeah.
So half the world is women. I mean, there's a small fraction of the world that are, CPAs. There's a little larger fraction of the world that are, mortgage professionals. There's a much larger section of the world that's real estate professionals, but nothing close to half of the world. So with Rosanna's vision of psychology of people for women, and who would be interested, in that course?
Women?
Okay. Why?
Actually, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Women and men.
Okay, women and men. Why women?
Because they could understand the people they're working with and understand their families better.
Okay.
And themselves.
Oh, yeah, throw in that last piece. Rosanna. Katrina. Well, now I'm confused. Elise. I don't know. Elise, you're the youngest of the women on the call. Do you understand yourself, Elise?
At times.
Do you think you understand more about being a woman, or do you think I understand you more? Do you think I understand more about being a woman, or do you think you do?
I think it depends.
It depends. Okay. That's an interesting response. Rosanna, do you think you understand yourself?
Not as well as you do.
You think I understand you better than you understand yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you understand yourself now at 55 more or less than when you were in your 20s or 30s or 40s?
Is that a trick question?
Paul, did that seem like a trick question? It seemed pretty straightforward to me, Paul.
Straightforward.
Okay, so I think, Roseanne, I think it was a pretty straightforward question, but maybe it's a trick question. I don't know.
I think sometimes no.
Okay. Judy, you're free to share your age or not. It's totally up to you. Do you think you understand yourself as a woman now more or less than you did in your 20s, 30s, 40s?
50s. I'm in my 60s.
You're in your 60s, okay.
Yes, I absolutely do. Yeah.
You understand yourself more now than you did when you were in your 20s and 30s?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So my mom, she passed away 4 years ago. And one of the closest people, in my life. And when she was in her mid-70s, and she had cancer, and they gave her 2 to 6 months to live. I went into the hospital, first time I'd seen her after they diagnosed her, tears running down my cheeks, and she, because I'm like, and it came on instant, like she was healthy as a horse. She's unbelievable, ate great, just unbelievable, like one of the most healthy people on the planet, and then all of a sudden she's going to die in 2 to 6 months. So I go in, tears are streaming down my cheeks, and she looks at me and she's like, and my youngest sister's a medical doctor. My oldest brother's a CPA. I have 2 other brothers and 1 other sister. And she looks at me and she says, Mark, you understand that you may be the only one who can help me, right? And tears are, like she's been diagnosed, with stage 4 cancer. No chemo, no nothing. No, like you're so far gone, Mrs. Borsma, just pack it up, you're done. 2 to 6 months, you're gone. I mean, no remedy, nothing. The cancer is so severe. And so she's like, well, I'm like, what are you talking about, Mom? She's like, Mark, how you think. I'm like, oh, you don't want to die. And she's like, no, well, I guess not. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, if you don't want to die, Mom, then you won't. And it was interesting on the Awesome Women call. If you're a woman, you want to be on that call. If you're a man, I'd try to figure out how to become engaged in that. You say you care about women. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. But I have 4 daughters, a wife, a daughter-in-law. I have 3 granddaughters. I have studied women. I love women like you cannot believe. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And so we were talking yesterday in the Awesome Women call, and I thought my mom passed away 2 years ago, but it ends up being 4 years ago. And my daughter, one of my daughters went ahead and said, Dad, that was 4 years, not 2 years. I'm like, oops, I thought it was 2 years ago. And then my oldest daughter, very, very close to my mom. Like, she traveled around the country and did ministry, with churches and helping the community and all kinds of stuff. And so she traveled around very, very, very close to my mom. So when my mom died, it was very hard. But she went ahead and started laughing when I said that. She's like, Grandma died? Like, why didn't anybody tell me Grandma died? Like, she's more alive with me now than... So again, in the quantum world, and this is what I'm really trying to figure out, is how do we help people think at a quantum level for these 7 lessons. And so I used to challenge my mom. She's like diagnosed with cancer. She's got tumor. She's, and I'd be like, Mom, like she's in her mid-70s, close to dying. And I'm like, I'd say something about women and she'd get ticked. I loved her so much because she'd get angry with me. She's like, Mark, that's not true. I'm like, Mom, you're so clueless about women. Like, you're just so clueless, Mom. You don't get it. And she'd get like all huffy with me and she's like, Mark, I can't believe that. You'd say that. That's not true about women. I'm like, okay, Mom, okay, cool, Mom. You know what son does that to his mom? When she's dying. Anyways, she lived for 18 months. I think she could have lived a lot longer, especially if, she had been around people like Judy. I tried to find people like Judy, full of life. Like, Judy's so young. Like, she's not in her 60s. She's in her, she's like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old. I mean, that's her spirit. You can, like, her energy, her story is, like, compelling. It's unbelievable. Her story is, like, mind-numbing. Anyways, and so then my mom would come back to me a little later, and she's like, Mark, I thought about that. You're right. Like, I never realized this about women. And so there's things I know about women that women do not know. You might, if you're a woman, you might be like, well, Mark, I know things about men that, men don't know. That's true, too. Like, that's true. Like, that's why I love being around women, because I can not only learn a lot about women, which I love women, but I have 3 sons and 3 sons-in-laws and 3 grandsons. And I love men. It's like, I just love people. And so women can reveal so much about men that men have no clue, no idea. The things my mom taught me about men, the things my granddaughter, who's 2.5 years old, like, I had a date night with her. I date every night, every week I have a date night with her. And last night we watched Strawberry Shortcake. And while she was so engaged in that, all I did is watched her. The whole time I just watched her. It was like one of the coolest. It was an awakening. It was a quantum. I'll never forget that time on the couch last night when she was watching Strawberry Shortcake, and all I did is watched her the whole time. If I'd have done that to any other woman on the planet, they would have felt the energy, and they'd be like, if it was my daughters, they'd be like, Dad, stop it. If it was my wife, she'd be like, what are you doing? If it was any other woman, they're like, call the police on the guy, like he's a stalker. But my granddaughter, who's 2.5 years old, I can just sit and watch her in absolute amazement, and I can learn about women, and I can learn about people. So that's what this course is about. But somehow we got to figure out as a group how to get people, how do you get people to be awakened? Like Abigail, I remember when she was actually younger than my granddaughters are now. She's older than my 3 granddaughters are. But I remember, I'll never forget the time when we were at a mastermind seminar event. And there were like 20 people, and she's not my granddaughter. I don't get to see her nearly enough. Man, when I see her, though, oh, just so precious. So I'll never forget when, Elise, do you know how old she was when we were at mastermind seminars?
I do not. No, I don't remember. I would think around 2 or so.
Yeah, she might have been 18 months to 2 years old. And I remember 20 people at a table, and I was all the way down at the other end, and she was all the way down at the other end. and all of a sudden our eyes connected. And there was a connection that was insane. I mean, it was insane. She was so captivating that it's like I floated from one side all the way down to the other. She just drew me in totally. And then as soon as I got close to her, then she's like, ah, who is this guy? And then she jumped towards her mom. She leaned towards her mom for protection. Like, can I trust this guy, Mommy? Like 18 months old. And then when we moved, we went out to Chipotle or something, and I'll never forget when she snuggled up, into her mommy's neck. Like it was like a little bird. It was just like, like, wow. So I internalize all of these things all over the place. Like I'll never forget Judy and I's first conversation. Like I'll never forget it. There's so many things. Paul calls it, what do you call it? Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
So like every time Paul and I talk, like he gets goosebumps. So that's internalization. So Paul knows how to internalize, things like Tom does. Like they're both experts. And Nicole, she knows how to internalize things. And so, Judy, questions, thoughts, anything at all?
It's just very interesting. As I said, just from our conversation and then just being on today, I just feel like it could open a whole world of lots of possibilities and great things.
Do you have any idea go ahead.
Sorry. I just said I want to know more.
So do you have any idea how totally unusual or weird you are?
Oh, I've been told that by my boys a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So when I ask you, like we were total strangers yesterday.
I know, but you felt, but it didn't feel that way.
No.
It felt like talking to an old friend.
Right. Right. It was, and it's like, and so when I asked you, I said, so Judy, I said, just curious, like if anybody could help you in any area of your life, like what would you love help with? And you were like a child. You're like, I don't know, Mark. Like, what do you think? Like you're so open. Like it's like nobody says that. Like that's so awesome. Like what do you think, Mark? I'm like, I don't know. Let me ask some more questions, and then we'll come up with something. Paul.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So maybe it'll help.
Well, I think you'll figure it out. I think this will help you to figure it out. Like I think this is it. I think this is what you want to be when you grow up. You have a huge heart for children. Like the psychology of people for children. You have a huge heart for young women.
Yeah.
So you have this huge heart for so many things. And so
I haven't known where to go with it. I have not. I prayed a lot about it, but I really haven't had direction.
Well, and this will answer, like Tom went ahead, I'll never forget. And so Tom was raised Mormon, very devout Mormon. I was raised very, very strong Baptist. And some would consider, Mormon and Baptist Christians. Other would consider it totally different worlds, like totally different worlds. And so that's how I was brought up. I was brought up, like even Catholic is very different than, Baptist, or how we, were. Anyways, when Tom said to me, he said, Mark, I believe that God won't ever put anything on somebody's heart that they don't have the capacity to do. In all my years being a pastor's and a missionary's kid, going to church my whole life when I grown up 3 times a week, I'd never, ever heard that from the pulpit. I'd never heard that from another Baptist. Oh, Tom also, when I said to him, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years ago, I said, Tom, what's your life vision? He said, well, one part of it is to change how real estate is done in the world. I'm like, wow, Tom, that's awesome. I love that. And he said, what's your life vision, Mark? And I said, my life vision is to touch every single person in the world, one person at a time, make a huge difference in every aspect of their life in a really fun and exciting way. And, yep, that's 7.4 billion people. He didn't even bat an eye, pause. We were on the phone. First time we ever had a conversation. He said, oh, you'll do it. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, you'll do that. Now, most people don't. Most people are one of two things. They're either like cynics and they're like, well, that can't happen. You can't do that. Or they're like, whoa, wow, like, really? And Tom was neither. He's like, nonchalant, like, what do you want to do today? I want to go out and get an ice cream cone. You'll do it. like it was just crazy. Like he believed he's the first person that internalized, and he's like, you're going to do it. I can feel it in your energy. It's just going to happen. And so I said to him when he said, about God, he's like, I don't think God would put anything on your heart. I said, well, Tom, I've got a lot on my heart, so that's good news. That is really good news and so he's been life-changing to me. It's been life-changing to me. It's absolutely, I've never met a person on the planet like Tom, ever. It's unbelievable. Matthew, anything you'd like to accomplish?
So as far as you had mentioned earlier, the art tree. Now, if I'm wanting to do psychology people for CPAs and accounting professionals, should there be an art tree specifically for that? Or is it just the art tree in general for psychology of people that you were referencing?
Good. So I would get the psychology of people for the art tree for the psychology of people, the core course, this one, that we're just getting set up. Once you get 3 to 7 CPAs in to the course, then you'd have your own art tree for CPAs. Same thing, Paul, for mortgage. Same thing, Judy, for real estate. So what you do is you start... Ooh, I just had a flashback of my dad. So he passed away a year before my mom did. My grandmother, who was 99 years old, she passed away a few months before my dad did. And so hadn't experienced a lot of death up until that time. And it's like all three of them are not dead. They're alive. They're more alive now. I mean, I can hear my grandmother's voice. Oh, Mark. Oh, that was the thing I missed. That was the thing I missed. So this is the thing that blows your mind. So my grandmother was 96 years old. She's 99 when she died. She was 96 years old. She was at our house. My son, Ben, who Paul and Judy, you both could change his life forever. And he needs it. The kid's a comedian, struggles in school, struggles academically, but he's a comedian, and he's a natural speaker. He started saying when he was 4 years old, Dad, when can I start speaking professionally? Dad, I'm like, listen, bud, it's a lot harder than you think. And he started speaking professionally when he was 7 years old. He bugged me for 3 years. Like, the kid's a natural. It's unbelievable. He is the most hilarious, too. Anyways, so he's 16. He's now 20. So he's 16, and he's sitting on the couch next to my grandmother, who's 96. So 80 years, 8 decades difference. And she's talking to him, and she's like, so Ben, what do you do? And he's like, well, Grandma, I love to hang out with my friends. And she looks at him and smiles, and she said, so what do you and your friends talk about? Dead silence. And then he blushes. And she looks at him, and she says, oh, Ben, you don't have to tell me. I know what you and your friends talk about. 80 years different. Never had a Facebook, never social media. As far as I know, my grandmother never had any of that. And she bridged 8 decades in an instant. She laughed and she said, you talk about how hard your parents are on you, and you talk about girls. I'm like, you got to be joking.
Never changes.
What's that?
It's always the same. Life doesn't change. It's always the same, generation to generation.
Right. But the challenge is technology has severed it. And we as a group can reconnect it. So how it severed it is young people think that, older people don't understand life, don't understand stuff, because they don't understand how to do a cell phone or social media or whatever. And older people don't think that they can contribute to the younger people because they don't understand technology, they don't understand mindsets, they don't understand this generation. My grandmother, she demonstrated to me, and she touched me at a very, very deep level. I internalized it so deep because she touched my son. And she went, it's like generational. It's just like it brings tears to my eyes right now. Her dying doesn't. My mom and dad's dying doesn't bring tears to my eyes. What brings tears to my eyes is tears of joy. It's like on how the impact of those three, and I think about all the kids out there that don't have that. But I can bring my parents, my grandmother, my dad, my mom, I can bring them to life with technology through stories and through technology. I can rebridge. I can connect the divide between the generations and bring healing. Not helping, but healing. Matthew, other questions?
Not for today.
Paul, questions?
No, sir. No, I'm good.
Rosanna, any other questions or thoughts you have? Sorry, you're on mute. Any other?
Good.
Okay, so this is what the backstage passes are all about. This is why it's so magical, because you guys are seeing a course. It's almost like being in the womb and seeing how a child is woven together in their mother's womb. So when I asked Tom, he's the strangest, most unusual person I've met. But when I ask him, Tom, do you understand how strange and unusual you are? He's like, no. He just thinks of himself as a normal person. He's not. When I asked Peter Miles, past board member of BMW, past president of Rolls-Royce, Peter, do you know how strange you are? He's like, no. When I asked Nicole, she's like, no. People don't know how strange they really are because they've never really, I think, understood how they were woven together in their mother's womb. I don't think they understand. They've never visualized that, like you were created, like you were crafted, you were put together, like every part of you was put together intentionally and precisely to be who you are, to become who you can become. People don't understand that. And nobody's teaching it anywhere in the world. Nowhere. Nobody's teaching it. like being a pastor's kid and a missionary's kid, I would think, well, pastors and churches, they would teach this, but they don't. They just don't. I don't know. Or nobody, I don't know. I've never been to a service where, you know, a church ever in my life where this is talked about. Maybe it's too metaphysical. I don't know. So until you really understand that you are created unique and special and different from the other 7.4 billion people, and nobody's ever come before you, and nobody's ever going to come after you that's ever created exactly, precisely like you are, until somebody realizes, like, the care and the consideration and the love. Tom says you can't share with somebody else something you first don't have yourself. So you can't really love somebody else until you love yourself. You can't really appreciate somebody else until you really appreciate yourself. And so, like, this is 30 years of my life, 40 years of my life, actually. Well, actually, 47. Since I was 8 years old, I knew that this is what I was put on this planet to do. And it's taken 47 years since I was 8 years old to figure out, how am I going to do this? How am I going to reach 7.4 billion people? How am I going to do this? And so, if you're listening to the rebroadcast of this and you're like, whoa, this is just weird. Yep, guaranteed. Somebody who passed it along to you thinks you're very strange, you're very weird. Give them a hug, thank them. Say, you are, like, weird is not bad. Weird is cool. Like, that's normal because you're created very special. And when you learn how to live in that specialness and that difference from everybody else on the planet, that's when all of a sudden everything, you start to become self-aware. And when we become self-aware, then we can be more aware of other people around us on how amazing my wife is. Like, oh my gracious, 35 years. It's like, she's more complicated now than she was in her 20s. Like, she was 19 when we got married. Trust me. Her complexity now, like, whoa. And then I can see my 7 kids, and I can see my grandkids, and now I can see other people, and like all around the world. And it's like, if we don't understand the importance of ourselves, we won't understand the importance of others. So if you have any questions, connect with the individual. It's okay. You don't have to be in the deep awareness, weirdness in the virtual insane asylum. You get to choose how close you are to me. And that's, the closer you are, the more you're going to be like, he should be committed to the insane asylum. Like, this guy is just certifiably strange. He's whacked. Like, he's way out there. But the person who invited you, they see something special in you. That's why they said, hey, listen to this. Like, listen all the way to the end, because the end is where the best part is. It's like, so sign up for the course. And know how special you are. If you have any questions on anything we covered today, feel free to connect with the individual who invited you to participate, or you can call toll-free 888-230-2300. That's 888-230-2300. Or if you're calling in outside the U.S., you can call the U.S.-based number 630-393-9909. That's 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. If you thought this one was awesome, register and attend the next one, because it's going to even be more amazing. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.